It's day 6 of being a girl, and I am loving it. Everyone's so nice to me. Everyone's been so nice to me in public. Not online. Everyone's really mean. But in public, I feel like customer service is so much better now that I'm a woman. When I was a man, I feel like nobody really tried to be helpful. Everyone just assumed I could take care of myself. But now that I'm a girl, everyone's so helpful, so nice everywhere I go. So that's one of the things that I'm like super grateful for. But anyways, just wanted to hop on and say day 6 of being a girl. Bye.
Yep,
day 6 of
that right there is Clint's new girlfriend, and he's not here because he's helping his girlfriend adjust to her new body, if you know what I mean. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Rudowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we will be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news developing right now, as of course we have a lot of crazy things to talk about as a Bitcoin community is becoming ever so closer to Donald Trump, as Joe Biden is now spending your money like a crazy person while arguing that Donald Trump is too old for the job of President of the United States. Yes, you heard that correctly, as there's literal thunder all around us here at PorcFest, reporting live to you guys from one of the tents here as we are protected here from the rain. So we're going to have a really awesome conversation for the next 2 hours, and we would ask you guys to please share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever and really does mean a lot to us, since of course it really does help us fight the larger algorithms that don't like free speech, that don't like people talking about real legitimate issues that could actually help you. So we thank you guys once again for helping get this broadcast out there, as of course you guys also get the ability to be a part of the conversation, and one easy, clear way for you guys to do that is to sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com. When you guys do that, you get the ability to call into the show, be a part of it, and of course we don't do any filters. We don't tell you what you can and cannot say, and you get to be a part of the show, a part of the conversation. You could be a part of it right now just by signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com, as well as getting the huge nature hike that we are going to be doing tomorrow, 12 p.m. local time near PorcFest. And to be a part of those festivities, to be a part of this larger touching of the grass moment, sign up and come out here to the White Mountains near Lancaster, New Hampshire. I have a beautiful spot that I'm going to be taking a lot of people to, as we also wanted to remind people to check out mysuperchat.com. And then once you do that, you guys get to super chat in a way where your super chats actually show up on screen. You heard that correctly. We prefer you guys use mysuperchat.com because it's only a 3% service charge, not a 30 or 50% service charge like other industries and other platforms charge us. And joining us for today's conversation are a plethora of really awesome and incredible individuals. Starting off to my right, we have Chris Martinson in the house here, an awesome human being. Great to have you. Chris, for the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
Wow, that's a big one. I don't even know how to introduce myself to my children. So who am I? I'm a guy who runs his mouth a lot. I talk about the economy, energy, environment. I'm a systems analyst. You know what? I like to see how the pieces fit together. Some people know me because of all the COVID coverage I did. I was doing daily coverage through 2020. Big critic of all things jab-related, if we can say that out here in the public. Probably not, so we'll talk about...
We're on YouTube. You can't say anything that you just said.
Everything... loosened up on that one a little bit. There's other things I can't talk about, so I understand that. So...
There's a plethora of things we can't talk about. I don't even say the C word. And it's not the C word you're imagining. I don't even talk about, we'll get into it probably in an hour. But it's great to have you here because your coverage during that very key critical time was on the money, and you really provided us important context, breaking down a lot of the medical studies in ways that I haven't seen other YouTubers do. So I have a lot of respect for you, high regard for you, because I was watching all of your videos when everything was breaking down, and then kind of talking to my sources and reading all this other stuff, and I was like, everything checks out, and you were ahead of the curve many times.
Well, thanks. That's my superpower, and it's not that I know the truth. I'm so good at detecting BS, though.
Yeah.
And that's really how I parse my way through the stuff. So that's what I am. I'm an information scout. I wake up every day. I figure out what's going on in the world. I tell my tribe about it over at Peak Prosperity. And, just like your tribe, we have a bunch of people who are interested in knowing what's going on in the world. I love how you introed this. We have to get our signal out there into the world and fight through a literal thicket of people who want to promote misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, but the real kind, the kind that you get from the mainstream news and all of that. So I just live for that battle. Yeah. I love fighting it.
Lots of disinformation out there, and it's not the disinformation that you think or
No.
that the government is trying to stop. They're the ones usually trying to spread it. As, of course, Martha Bueno is also in the house here, replacing Clintina. Thank you for Martha for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I'm trying to fill the very big shoes that Clint left behind. So instead of Clint, you have your feisty Latina. Martha Bueno, you can find me on platforms as Bueno for Miami.
Awesome. We got Daniel Diaz in the house as well. Daniel, for the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Luke. My name is Daniel Diaz. I am the Executive Director of Citizens for Sound Money. We are a nonprofit 501c4 organization that promotes the use of gold and silver or sound money, and we also protect people's rights to do so through legislative means. We lobby for sound money legislation because we truly believe, as the Bitcoin maxis say, fix the money, fix the world, but we also believe that gold and silver can fix the world as well by making it not just legal tender, but making electronic gold and silver legal tender as well to make it one old ancient form of money, which is real money, brought up to the 21st century. So.
Yeah, you guys also helped us set up the studio. We're kind of hijacking your studio.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's all right. It's cool. You can do that.
Yeah, we're doing that also with the help of Alpine Gold. GetIntoGoldNow.com is the website. And shouts out to all the people doing cool stuff out there that really does help a lot of independent content creators. So, Daniel, thank you for letting us steal your studio for these broadcasts that we have going on here. As of course, I think we should just get right into it, as there's so many different stories out there. It's always difficult trying to find the major story that we're going to be talking about here. But I wanted to kind of start it off slowly and get into the kind of latest cryptocurrency Bitcoin news that is going out there into the world right now, as Tyler Vinken lost.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, that guy. Tyler, how do you say his name? Winklevoss.
He's part of the Winklevi, the twins.
Yes. I actually saw these guys in Tulum, Mexico, a few years ago, in a random occurrence, just walking down the street there. But these guys are huge into crypto, huge into Bitcoin. They had a big tiff with Mark Zuckerberg, and these guys are fascinating guys. They're definitely tuned in to the Bitcoin community, and it's really fascinating to see them just say that they donated $1 million+ in Bitcoin to Donald Trump, which they announced that they will be voting for this November. Now, Tyler actually went on and said why he's doing this. He wrote a very long piece on Twitter, and he says, quote, "The weaponization of the banking system against crypto companies and their principles is one of those reasons. Another issue that he highlighted is the weaponization of the SEC against crypto, as of course it's pretty clear that the federal government doesn't like you having Swiss bank accounts in your pocket," as Barack Obama said. So it's fascinating because we were talking about this for a while, this larger kind of Bitcoin crypto community moving in and playing a major role in this election, and the amount of money that Donald Trump is getting could actually push him past the goal line and could actually have him implement policies that could allow free markets to be practiced here. Now, I know you guys love to talk about gold, but what do you think of this news, and do you think it will be enough to push Donald Trump over the edge and make him the next president of the United States?
You know, I consider Bitcoin sound money. I actually came into gold and silver through Bitcoin. I was a Bitcoin miner and blockchain consultant before I became a physical sound money advocate. And I do believe that Bitcoin is a huge opportunity for Donald Trump. You know, everything that he's doing, and also the fact that he is moving forward ahead of Kennedy. Kennedy was the Bitcoin candidate, and now, I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump is going to be the keynote speaker at Bitcoin 2024. I can't tell you what my source is. Has to do with Puerto Rico. That's all I can say.
But I have very similar sources.
Yes.
And we're actually in communication and talks about doing something big. I can't say it, but you're like, I want to tease people a little bit, but I think you might be hinting in the right direction, as of course, I can't say what I want to say.
Much more.
but there's going to be some really fun, exciting things happening at this upcoming Bitcoin conference in Nashville, Tennessee. I'll just leave it at that. And we might be participating in it. I'll just leave it as that. And someone else might be participating in it. I don't.
We can't say anymore.
I want to announce it. I want to announce it so bad because it's really big, but I can't. I can't. Sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
Absolutely.
The non-announcement.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump had a meeting with a Bitcoin group, with a group of Bitcoiners, miners, recently. So that might have pushed him over the edge. Who knows? But they have pledged to raise some money for him in Bitcoin, which I absolutely think is fantastic.
And let me tell you, there are a lot of people who started off in Bitcoin early on who have been looking for a candidate with support digital sound money like Bitcoin. And year after year after year, we see the federal government locking and clamping down, throwing freedom-loving individuals that are trying to get away from government-controlled money with Bitcoin, throwing them in jail for producing smart contracts that they're no longer in control of. But the founder of Tornado Cash is in jail. What's his name? The wrote the book Bitcoin, Hijack Bitcoin.
Roger Ver. Roger Ver. But he was actually just released on bail, so we are winning that war, hopefully.
Good.
But I mean,
but this is a guy who expatriated. This is a guy who literally
did over 10 years
ago
ago
to the government and said, "I'm no longer an American citizen. I don't want to pay taxes." They're still going after him for not paying taxes. Which
it's
is crazy.
the government, Luke. They're coming after us all.
Well, that's the larger umbrella, right? Which is, I think, the Winklevoss vibe.
If you can, Chris,
talking about,
bring the microphone a little bit closer, just like I have it.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
so the larger sweep here is we're talking about lawfare and debanking and other things. The whole system is being used against anybody who thinks independently, creatively, and is not part of the Mind Hive Borg that's out there that wants us all to be collectivists and think whatever they think, and they change it by the minute, right? So watching this weaponization of law and banking has been one of the most disturbing things that I've seen happen this past year, and there's been a lot of disturbing things. Right? They are shameless about this right now, watching people get absolutely taken down. And you've heard about the big ones. Everybody's familiar with Donald Trump and what's going on in the New York state system, but lesser people, I know individuals who are fairly small in the feeding chain who are being targeted by, well, you know, the DAs who are funded by George Soros or whatever. So we have a real problem on our hands. So I think that's what they're referring to here. And I hope the Bitcoin community comes and rallies around Trump on that basis alone, because we got to stop this.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because a lot of people in the kind of crypto community have moved over to Europe because they have less regulations. That says a lot.
That does say a lot.
Europe has a lot of regulations, but there's so many different companies out there that are saying it's too risky to do business here. It's too risky to try to innovate or create something or try to incentivize new projects here, because when I do, the government's just going to come in and take it all and put me in jail because I'm trying to revolutionize the way we do business here. And countries like El Salvador are taking our lunch. So it's pretty clear there's been so many amazing people that are so creative, that are so innovative, that have been kind of kicked out of the United States retroactively because of this kind of oppressive new rule and order law by the Biden administration. Now, Trump's not perfect, too. We had Jeremy Kauffman on yesterday from Library. That whole business, that whole kind of institution was shut down under kind of Donald Trump's leadership. It wasn't Donald Trump exactly. It was the SEC that kind of went after them. But it's such a shame because there's such a potential for this new technology, and the government is making sure that we're going to be on fiat no matter what. And I think this is the main reason why they see crypto as such a major kind of a problem for them.
And this isn't new. I mean, if you recall, 11 years ago, Ross Ulbricht was put in jail for building a website. But beyond just building the website, that website only transacted in Bitcoin, which meant that the government had no way of collecting taxes on it. So, I mean, I just think that this is a problem that has been coming along for a long time. And finally, there's enough people that understand that Bitcoin, is here. It's not going away. And I think over that period of time where we saw the truckers in places like Canada being debanked, I think that woke up a lot of Americans to what's actually happening and what can actually happen. It's really scary that the government can just turn off your bank account and leave you with no money.
I had lunch with RFK about a year ago when he was first starting this whole thing out, and I asked him if he had just one plank, what would it be? What's that one thing? And he said, after giving a beautiful background on free market capitalism and what it means and free market economies, he went straight to it and he said CBDCs. Once we get to a CBDC, it's all over. That's it. That's the end. We no longer have any freedom. We're wiped out. We can't do anything, say anything. And it's not that they just debank you, which is the light switch going off. It's that they nudge you. You know, it's like, oh, you've been a bad boy, Luke. You know, we're gonna have to like dial you back here. We're gonna have to audit you. We're gonna have to investigate you. We're gonna have to put new regulations. You have a minus 10% rate of interest on your bank account, right, or whatever they're gonna do.
You bought that thing that we didn't agree with, so now here you go. Here's your punishment, child.
And it's not even buying or being part of it. If you're associated with a mining company, for example, I've had 4 of my bank accounts, business bank accounts with Wells Fargo and Bank of America, shut down because I'm a mining company and a blockchain consulting. And when we were buying GPUs, we flew to Boston and picked up like 50 GPUs. And the bank manager here in Boston told us you can't have anything with crypto. And if anybody is associated with that bank account, whether they're cutting your lawn, whether they're fixing your roof, and they have any money coming out of your bank account to pay them, we'll shut their bank account too.
And this isn't the first industry. I mean, it's going on all around America. As a hemp farmer, I had my bank account shut down because I was growing a plant that our founding fathers grew.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is definitely something that has been coming around. They will target you based on any industry that you're in that they don't like.
Yep.
And so we need to protect not only our own, but everybody else who's doing business, you know, making sure that they have the freedoms that this country is supposed to have.
And Martha, you're one of many stories here at PorkFest. There's so many people that I kind of walk around and talk to here. They're like, the government screwed me over. I'm a libertarian now. I'm an anarchist. I'm a minarchist. Whatever. I just don't like government because I tried to, do the right thing. I tried to help solve people's problems through capitalism, and the government came in and destroyed my life for it. So you meet so many different individuals here, and you meet a lot of individuals that were also kind of enriched here, that made a lot of money here, especially through alternative currencies, especially
like
with Bitcoin, especially with doing things like selling smoothies. And then just by the simple act of selling smoothies,
I may know who you're talking about.
They became multimillionaires off of just $3 smoothies that they exclusively only sold in Bitcoin here a few years ago. So there's a lot of success stories with Bitcoin, and I think if there ever was a technology that has uplifted so many people from poverty, it is Bitcoin. And I think this is why the state doesn't like it. I think the state hates it. The banksters see it as a larger threat. There's other kind of conspiracy talk about it actually being the central bank digital currency, which I've been kind of bringing up to Max Kaiser ever since he kind of introduced me into this concept when it was a few cents, and I ignored him and I didn't listen to him, and he told me to buy it, and I was like, leave me alone. I don't got time for your nerd money, Max. And I regret that so much. But we all learned our kind of learning lesson here. And
we all have that story.
Seriously, if you've been coming to PorkFest for a while here, you hear a lot of these success stories and a lot of people kicking themselves for not kind of utilizing this new technology that is, I think, here to stay, and I think absolutely changing the game in many different ways. So if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, if they allow him to become president of the United States, if he isn't jailed, if he isn't, God speaking, taken out in many different ways, because there's a lot of underhanded things happening right now, how do you think Trump will revolutionize this kind of sphere? What do you think are your kind of larger hopes for his administration, especially when it comes to some of the policies that he would implement that would allow sort of a free market to exist here? What do you think will be the implications of that?
What's most important to me is that he said that while he is president, he will not allow a CBDC to be implemented in the United States. And I think that is the number one reason that Donald Trump needs to be elected, because if we're allowed to have a CBDC implemented with Biden his last 4 years, because I know for a fact, because I know people that are in WEF, and know that Europe and Canada are going to be issuing their own CBDCs within the next 12 to 18 months. And if Europe and Canada issues their CBDCs and Biden is still president, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to approve, thumbs up, and get the CBDC through. So Trump will at least give us 4 more years to come up with an alternative, and I think that alternative is a constitutional gold and silver electronic currency state by state, and if we can get 26 to 27 states to make gold and silver legal tender, so we can create a parallel economic system that where we can use gold and silver as cash instead of the Federal Reserve System, we're going to be able to use that as a parallel economy while Trump is in office, and then push that out. And then the federal government, with Trump, could potentially make Bitcoin legal tender, because only the federal government can make Bitcoin legal tender, not the states. It's unconstitutional.
Yeah, Trump's even talking about helping alleviate the national debt problem with Bitcoin. So these conversations, they're a lot more revolutionary than we think they are.
Yep.
I don't know how he would implement it. I don't know the exact policies that he would do, but he's saying, hey, we could probably deal with the U.S. Federal Reserve, national huge debt that we're in with Bitcoin. Now,
Yeah, I have no idea how that would happen.
exactly.
Asset-backed bonds, like
Yep.
we had gold bonds before. You have a Bitcoin bond or a federal or municipal bond that is backed with real world assets, whether they're tokenized or not. So that's definitely one way to back our debt with actual real assets to actually increase and not get rid of the Federal Reserve immediately, but at least have asset-backed bonds that are able to increase in price.
Yeah, but back to how? I mean, we're already at 35 trillion in debt as of last week, right? And it's going up to 50 in the next few years. What would we back that with? Like I don't even understand how the mechanism of this would actually work, because the government would have to get those Bitcoins somehow first in order to back.
Chris, it's easy. It's monopoly money. You print it out of thin air, and it's just papers that we have everywhere.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And then it's magic math that the Federal Reserve
magic
created.
math,
that,
okay.
Works wonderfully for the U.S. petrodollar.
Yeah. I hope we talk about that petrodollar.
No, we're going to get into
bueno.
the petrodollar stuff as well here.
Thanks for the
If you make Bitcoin legal tender, you make Bitcoin legal tender, and the United States starts mining Bitcoin. I mean, then you could actually start backing debt with actual real assets like we used to have, because debt was backed by gold. The United States would issue out war bonds or issue out gold bonds for debt, and then they would be backed up, and then the United States would mine gold or whatever they needed to do to pay back those debts. So it isn't too far off to get back to an asset-backed debt system where the government would actually give you real assets versus debt notes like the dollar.
Well, question then: Do you think does the government have 261 million ounces of gold in Fort Knox and other places?
They would need to reevaluate the dollar and the price of
No,
gold.
does
at
it
that point.
exist? Do we
I
actually
don't know.
have
That's
it?
a great question.
You know?
Nobody's seen it for decades,
Exactly.
50 plus years. We don't know if we have the
It was
gold
in Die Hard.
Fort.
It was in Die Hard.
I forgot. You're right.
Conveniently, nobody can go visit the gold. Nobody's
No,
seen
it's
it.
so hard. You have to open a door. It's really, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the most recent was a tweet. Oh yeah, it's in there. We can't trust that, man. Come on.
What? We can't trust the government?
Yeah, I know. What a novel idea, right?
Wow. I'm learning so much on this podcast today.
That's amazing.
Changing topics just slightly here. I wanted to talk about Biden's kind of strategy here, which seems to be kind of shooting himself in the foot, as just today the Biden campaign came out with a montage showing that Trump is not fit to be president since he is confused, lost, and wandering off, and, quote, waving to nobody, as they just released this official montage on their official Twitter account, highlighting this clip that I wanted our guests to respond to see if it's an actual legitimate kind of concern. I'm not really seeing anything here.
No. He was waiting for the music to stop. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, he just waved
I
to a
didn't
bunch of
see
people.
anything there.
Fist
Yeah.
bump wave.
there's
I don't- Okay.
He's waving. What's the deal?
Who's he waving for?
This is embarrassing.
Here we go.
We can lower the volume here a little bit, but this is the best that they have
See,
here.
he didn't fall.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
He didn't
that's
fall
fine.
going up the stairs, right?
Or down. A major accomplishment.
Navigating stairs, that's a requirement of mine.
Yeah,
For president.
at least.
I see this as a maverick move. Like, you don't have to, I'll go where I want. I don't really see it as a confusion thing.
Wow, this is weak. They got some weak sauce on this one.
Yeah.
No, definitely
That's
this seemed
pretty
like this administration is accusing Donald Trump of everything that they're doing themselves.
Projection much? Really?
Yeah,
These guys?
Threats against democracy. That's a big one.
Wait, isn't it our democracy?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, our democracy. I apologize for my microaggression there against the general listening public there. But again, he's spry. He's paying attention.
Way more energy.
He's up there in age. Let's just
He's
be
got
honest
some
with
charisma,
ourselves.
too.
Yeah.
He's not the youngest president of the United States, but as far as just cognitive ability, I saw him just a couple weeks ago in person. And he didn't seem senile. He didn't seem old. He didn't seem out of it. He seemed very smart. He seemed very on top of it. We had an interesting conversation. But this is what they have. This is what they're using. This is their kind of campaign here. This kind of shows you just how kind of desperate the Biden administration is. As of course we have video after video after video, specifically highlighting how Biden clearly is the one not there. Trump, not so much. I think he's on top of it, but he's still old.
Yeah.
But he's not Joe Biden old.
No, not at all.
So
He's old, but not demented old.
yeah, and I think that's a big difference and takeaway here. But the biggest kind of revelation from all of this is that this man that has a lot of mishaps, this man that a lot of people accuse pooping his pants, this man that mumbles his words more than I do, is someone that I think also represents the perfect puppet, the perfect kind of flesh suit for the globalists and the internationalists to ram through a lot of the most unfavorable policies through his administration, while he's giving kind of a Fisher-Price play deck at the Oval Office, pretending that he's the president of the United States. So if anything, people are awakening to the fact that he's not really in charge.
Well, nobody knows who is in charge, but isn't it the very fact that we're supposed to pretend that this guy is actually our president? It's just demoralizing. It's full-on demoralizing that we even have to pretend for a skinny minute that this person is in any way, shape, or form fit for purpose to run the country.
I think
Absolutely not.
It's showing just, again, I made this point last time on the show, too. I think that the government finally kind of dropped that mask, and they're showing us that whoever's president doesn't really run the thing. And what more proof than a man who may or may not poop his pants, while he's on camera, to show you, like, this is the largest corporation on planet Earth. If a man who is not quite there can run it, do we really need a president?
No.
Great point. That's a great point that a lot of people are kind of bringing up and saying, it's all a show. It really doesn't matter. Jeremy was making this argument. It does matter in many different ways, and we saw Donald Trump even be kind of stifled in his own administration when it came to even some of the policies that he wanted to implement, that some bureaucrat just said, no. You want troops out of Syria? Yeah, sure, Trump. And then
unelected bureaucrat, which is even scarier, because we don't vote for those over 3 million people in the federal government that have full control over our lives. People in the Fed, people in the EPA, in the Department of Education, you name it. You name a government agency. Those rules were not voted on by people that we elected. And they have full control.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a majority of the bureaucrats at every level of government, whether it's federal, state, or municipal, they're typically Democrats and liberals that are in there for life in most cases.
Regardless of their ideology, though, the point is that somebody that we didn't elect, that we have no say in, that we can't fire, is making these points. I don't care if they're libertarian. They should not be able to decide these things for us without us having the control of, you can get in, you can get out. We decide that. They just have full control. And I think that is the bigger picture that I hope America's waking up to, with President Biden being the guy that you see it happening with. I mean, you just can't make an argument that he's there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he's clearly not all there. I mean, and then when you look at a video from just 15 years ago, and you see how spry and the big smile, and he was a great speaker, Biden prior. But then you look at him today, you do it side by side, you got a robot who barely moves, and it's two completely different people.
And completely different faces. Many different faces.
Many different faces and different earlobes, which is very, very curious. I've never, I think my earlobes have stayed the same.
And the weird stretchy skin on the back.
I'm sure you've seen that, right? Oh, it's creepy, right?
It is creepy. I wonder what's going on here.
I wonder.
It's like Michael Jackson. You know, he's upgrading his looks so he can fit into.
I mean, but at least Michael Jackson, you could see the progression from Michael Jackson in the 70s to the last iteration of Michael Jackson. You could see kind of like that progression. You could see the surgeries. You know, you could see the Biden. It's like one day he's one way, one day he's another. It's odd.
It's still kind of surprising, and I kind of prophesized this a couple of months ago, saying, you know, I think the strangest thing that could happen here, the wildest thing that could happen here, is that Biden becomes the nominee and becomes the next president of the United States. We are on that trajectory with all the powerful institutions, all the celebrities, all the major kind of powerful people behind the scenes bankrolling him. Do you guys foresee that happening, or do you think there might be some kind of shakeups here? Do you think they're going to be ousting him in some way? Because this is stranger than fiction with what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, I saw a tweet. I forget who put it out, but they're saying early July, there's going to be a shakeup, and that they might actually take out Biden from being the nominee, and the question was, who will they replace Biden with?
Oprah or Michelle Obama or somebody that the crowd just loves for whatever reason.
Yeah,
or maybe somebody that's just super demoralizing, because that's what they're all about. So it's a Gavin Newsom,
Yes,
ticket.
Gavin Newsom.
That too.
Whitmore as well. Gavin Newsom, Whitmore ticket.
That would just be completely demoralizing.
It's funny how Kamala
awful.
Harris is not even like in that conversation. She happens to be the VP. She happens to be fairly young, but they're just like, nah, we're not even going to pretend.
I think there was an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal just 2 days ago talking about how Joe Biden really needs to replace Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton, and that is the perfect strategy for Joe Biden to deal with the question of his age, and that would be the perfect thing to do if you want to spur on the apocalypse, because Joe Biden's days would be numbered if his VP was Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
That's a great way to make sure that somebody just,
Yep.
But I got to back up to
one more to the body
what
count,
Martha was saying, though, because I don't know that the president makes any difference anymore. And so it's all this kabuki theater, and it's the retail level stuff, and we're all supposed to get excited and talk about it. But meanwhile, there's no daylight between policies of administrations, right? I'm old enough to remember the great financial crisis, right? That was the most target-rich environment. Nothing happened when Obama came in power, right? From Bush to Obama, nothing. Nobody went to jail. Nothing changed. We bombed the same number of countries. Nothing changed, right?
Are you saying that there's a deep state?
It's almost like there's a deeper state. Yeah.
I believe Jeffrey Tucker was speaking here.
Heavier, kind of. Bigger,
Jeffrey Tucker today was on stage here at PorcFest talking about exactly that, the different levels of the deep state. And I think that it's just so clearly obvious. These people, whoever controls the government, it's the same. And I've been saying this for years. It doesn't matter if it's the right wing or the left wing. It's the same bird.
Well, I mean, let's think about this. So really dangerous things have happened in the past month. And twice, Ukraine has somehow managed to reach deep into Russia and take out their over-the-horizon nuclear detection radar systems, right, which have no military purpose against Ukraine. So do you think Ukraine made that decision? No, that took NATO weapons, NATO targeting, NATO precision, NATO everything. So that was NATO. So do you think anybody that we actually voted for made the decision that those assets ought to be hit at that time?
Yeah, absolutely not.
No. So
can you imagine they walked into the White House and they're like, excuse me, President Biden, so we need to do this very strategic targeted exercise. And he was like, yes, go right on ahead. Like, no, of course not.
Of course
Nobody
not.
we voted for.
And they're specifically targeting a lot of kind of advanced warning institutions set up by the Russians. A lot of their radars, a lot of their early detection kind of advanced airplanes that cost a lot of money, specifically when it comes to the potential of a lot of missiles flying over into Russia. So as you know, the Russians are kind of sitting here, they're kind of getting enraged more and more since all of their defenses are being absolutely obliterated as NATO keeps sending in more troops into the region, more advanced military hardware. We just had the chief of NATO say that we got to take our nuclear weapons out. We got to show the world we got to dust off those nuclear weapons and show Russia that we have them, and we got to put them on Russia's border. That right there is just sociopathic, crazy, insane behavior that is propelling us towards war. As a lot of people kind of prophesize that this threat of war could be used as a way to kind of intervene in this larger presidential election. I don't know if you guys believe that is true or not. That's kind of the speculation out there, but it is something that has legitimately kind of concerned me, because if this conflict expands, the government could have more of an excuse to use that as an emergency to trample and destroy our rights even more.
And historically, wartime presidents have never lost re-election. So they might actually drag the U.S. into war at the last minute, because historically that is the case. Every time we've been in war, the president has been reelected. So that could be a situation that could happen here.
And it's a funny timing that Russia just moved nuclear weapons back into Cuban waters, submarines and all sorts of stuff. So it's almost like we've seen this before.
Yeah,
It's like history's kind of repeating a little bit.
Right. Oh
like,
my gosh.
Oh my gosh! It's like, where have I can't put my finger on it, but I think we've seen this before.
But instead of Jack Kennedy in the White House, who do we have? Oh, yeah. Right? The guy who craps his pants, right?
Yes.
The capable guy.
Yeah, the super capable guy.
Super
I'm
spry
super.
guy.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
right
yeah.
on top of it. He's super ready for anything.
No, but these are such dangerous things we're talking about here that they did. They're actively talking about nuclear war and moving things in position and knocking out Russia's ability to detect long-range stuff, which means they're half-blind, which means that the chance for a miscalculation is much higher. Right? And I think that's what they want. That's my guess. They want Russia to do something that they can then respond to.
We have to, because the response to that is always war. It's always to escalate. It's never to go and have a conversation. It's never to solve the issue. Hey, Russia, what's going on? How do we solve this? It's always war.
Xi Jinping a couple days ago made a very similar statement to what you were just saying, essentially describing American strategy in Ukraine that they compared to Taiwan, saying that essentially the United States is trying to push China to invading Taiwan. Now, whether you believe the Chinese president or not, or whether you think those are just propaganda statements as well, I think it's important to highlight the American actions here, since the stuff in Ukraine has been going on since 2014. It's been a long, ongoing process, especially in the Donbass region that has been fighting. The war hasn't just started a few years ago. It started all the way back in 2014. There was mortar fire, there was missile fire, there was sniper fire that has been exchanged for a decade now between the Ukrainians that were influenced by the Russians and supported by the Russians, and the Ukrainians that have been backed and supported by NATO and the CIA that has been on the ground ever since, building up for this larger war that they've been preparing for and now are kind of carrying out there. But from all accounts that I've been seeing, this war isn't going good for the Ukrainians. They just simply don't have enough people. They don't have enough equipment. Russia has been able to produce munitions far faster, far cheaper than the United States and NATO. And this really does highlight a grave problem for Ukraine. And one of the issues that I kind of was very perplexed about, and I don't know if you guys have any comments on, was Donald Trump's passage of the Ukraine spending bill. According to Mike Johnson, according to Lindsey Graham, it was Donald Trump that helped Congress pass the Ukrainian spending bill that now, just a few weeks ago, gave them an additional $60 billion. I talked to Trump's kind of former head of Intel, Kash Patel, and I was like, why did you guys do this? If Ukraine, would have had a peace deal, if there was, if this situation would have came to a head, this would have made the Republicans have a clear line for victory. This would have been another major failure by the Democrats. And then Kash kind of explained it as a way for them to maintain their leadership in Congress. So clearly, Mike Johnson, who had secret meetings that swayed him and changed his mind on this issue that he didn't really clarify, obviously kind of hint at larger things at play here that were going on that we're not privy to. But what do you guys think is kind of going on here, since this kind of future payment by the United States, to me, signals a future down payment on war in the region? I don't know if you guys have any kind of response to that, or concerns or questions or even analysis on that, because that's something that I'm trying to comprehend and understand myself as well.
It's hard to believe that Trump was behind it. I mean, but it goes back to what you're saying. There's really no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats anymore when they're in office.
That's right.
I mean, we're funding the military-industrial complex, which is a huge special interest. And they're the ones that fund and give millions to candidates and Republicans and Democrats at both sides. I mean, they play both sides of the field. So, of course, I mean, look, the only reason the military-industrial complex is so powerful is because we are in a fiat economy. You can print all this imaginary money and then give it to the military-industrial complex where they get the full purchasing power of that currency before they spend it. And that they're part of the problem. Look, we fixed money, we fixed the world. We're no longer on a fiat standard. We can't fund these endless wars. We can't fund these proxy wars. So, I mean, if Trump was really behind it, I don't know why. I mean, it violates every principle that I believe in. I'm very anti-war, and this is ridiculous.
I mean, but Trump, of course, his administration was behind all these things because I don't think that at the time he was necessarily the Trump that we hope that he is now, which is realized that deep state exists and will fight against it. I mean, this is, of course, fantasy and hope, and we wish for this to be true, but that's all we've got, really, because who else is going to break this deep state hold?
Well, Trump is still one of the few candidates saying, end this war now. As soon as I come into office, this war ends, this war stops. And there are many kind of underhanded efforts now being done by Biden and Congress trying to prevent him from ending that war. So that, to me, does signal that he probably is serious about this, but also it is a campaign promise. But when it comes to the difference between him and Joe Biden, it's pretty clear. Joe Biden, I think, in my opinion, total trajectory, total world war. That's how I see it. Trump, at least publicly, is saying, we got to end this war now. This is dangerous. This is stupid.
He's the only president in my adult lifetime that didn't start a war.
Yeah.
Right? And they tried. Remember, they killed Soleimani, and they pushed hard to try and get something going with Iran, which is a perennial neocon, sort of a Zionist, they're always hoping for that one. Didn't get that one pulled out. But this thing they're doing with Russia right now, let me be absolutely clear. We're provoking, and we're doing this in a way that eventually, here's what I'm worried about. Probably 10, 15 years ago, Putin tried to join, NATO. He made overtures to the West. We rebuffed that, said, no, we'd rather have you as an enemy. And then we broke the Minsk agreement. We broke Minsk II. We pushed NATO many inches to the east. So he called us non-agreement capable. That's Russian speak for, I can't trust you crazy people. So now what happens if all of a sudden Putin and Xi look at the West and go, these people are actually insane? And then they have to do what they consider is in their best interest, which includes a preemptive strike on their end, because they're like, listen, these people are crazy. Look what they're doing to their own children. Putin came to his Duma and said, we've got people over there who are openly into Satan and pedophilia, and you can't make agreements with them. So what if, remember, that's why we attacked Iraq back in the day. They had these weapons of mass destruction, which didn't exist, but we used that casus belli for preemptive strike because we were worried for our future. Couldn't Putin have that same worry at this point?
I mean, did we not just see the Jeffrey Epstein stuff? I mean, we accuse them of things that we know we have happening within our own administration. Our own president in the 90s, Clinton, went to an island that is, that one of the people involved in it is accused of trafficking children to no one, of course. Nothing came out of that. But, I mean, it's like we're accusing Russia of what we clearly have done. And we're like, well, we got to go drop bombs on their people, not on them, because we never drop bombs on the actual rulers. We drop it on their people. We are not at war with the people of Russia in terms of the population. Why do we do these things?
Yeah. Well, Russia keeps saying, here's my red line. And the United States is like, we're going to get right close to it, or we're just going to break it right away. And then Russia declared, hey, if you're going to start striking Russian territory and Russian territory is in danger, we're going to respond with nuclear weapons. That's the stage that we're at. And then the United States is saying, we're not touching you, we're not touching you, we're not touching you. And then they're just moving ever so closer into touching Russia. And again, Russia, China, not the good guys. Every state, every government is kind of looking out for their own kind of personal interests. But geopolitically and internationally, we have to understand this Biden administration is absolutely insane, absolutely reckless. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the larger dangers that they bring us closer to every single day with every foreign policy decision that is just absolutely asinine, absolutely stupid, and doesn't really serve the best interest of the American people or anyone other than the coffers of the military-industrial complex or the intelligence agencies that use the cover of war to do drug trafficking and human trafficking that they're always known for proliferating.
or the depopulation agenda, or all those things that,
That's a big one as well,
there it is.
especially when it comes to kind of transhumanism and a lot of these elites saying that they're going to live on forever. And if that technology does exist, which it might already and we might not know about, they're going to have to get rid of a lot of people according to their own kind of ideology. I got into that a little bit earlier today on my main YouTube video, but I wanted to bring up this article because we're talking about the larger kind of presidential elections that are happening this year, as Donald Trump is saying, no more war. And Joe Biden is saying, I'll give you money. Lots of it. We'll just print it out of nowhere, as just recently, a Democratic staffer making $80,000 a year in taxpayer funds is now boasting on social media that Joe Biden, his boss, wiped his student debt away from him, going on social media and declaring, this is why elections matter. Thank you, Joe Biden, as of course this issue is far more sinister than just, of course, excusing the bad behavior of young people. It is far more sinister. It is far more evil, as of course we're all going to be paying for this. And we are.
It says canceled. That's not true. It's been transferred.
Exactly.
That was not canceled. It was given to you. It was given to me. It was given to everybody listening to this, right? That's what happened. It got transferred.
That's an important distinction that a lot of people need to make here, because they always play on language in a way where it looks like what they're doing is helping, but in reality they're destroying. So it's not that they canceled it, as you mentioned. They took it from you. They took it from me. They took it from everyone else working their butt off trying to make ends meet.
They took it from people who were working, who were, trying to, maybe didn't go to college themselves because they needed to save money or went straight into trade or whatever the case may be. They took it from them to pay for some kid who went to school, who hopefully got a good degree, but I mean, basket weaving is one of them, so.
Well, yeah, so, I checked my mortgage. Nobody stripped 35 grand off of that. So if they had made it a debt relief for everybody, maybe, but this is really impressive. The Supreme Court already ruled you couldn't do this. So remember, we're supposed to have these three big branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So the Supreme Court ruled that this was unconstitutional, can't do it. Unfortunately, they don't have a Supreme Court army or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no enforcement division, so we just ignored it.
Yeah.
These are the most lawless people ever. A Supreme Court decision, they're like, nah, gonna do it anyway.
And unfortunately, that is a check of the president. He can't ignore the Supreme Court, and that's what Thomas Jefferson was going to do in Marbury v. Madison. But I think it was John Marshall was so genius in the way that he wrote the decision that he said, the president could, execute and deliver this order, but they gave the Supreme Court a judicial review. They gave themselves that power of judicial review to declare something constitutional or not. Ultimately, there was a governmental crisis that Thomas Jefferson, if he ignored the Supreme Court would be damaged the entire time. Or if the Supreme Court did say the writ of mandamus was necessary, it would try to diminish the presidency, and there would be a battle between the two. But the court backed down and said, hey, the president could do this, but we're not going to violate his rights. And really, Jackson did the same thing. He's like, all right, the Supreme Court, you made your ruling, now enforce it. It is a check of the president, and traditionally the president has listened to the Supreme Court to respect the three branches of the government. But ultimately, the president can ignore any Supreme Court ruling, because what is the Supreme Court going to do?
I mean, why not have a king? They're already showing us that they are a type of monarchy. Nothing changes between it. So technically, it's just the changing of the guard. It's just from one guy to the next, but it's still the same deep state. And, even if it was constitutional, it is just making that invisible tax, that inflation just, rise, which hits us all. So it's equally distributing the pain amongst us all.
But there's no bringing the genie back in the bottle after this, because even if there's another Supreme Court case, what are they going to do? Say, hey, you have debt now again, or what is Donald Trump going to say? All that debt relief, we're going to make sure we're going to put the burden back onto you. As of course, that's extremely unlikely.
We can make a trade.
And at the same time, it's also incentivizing some of the worst behaviors out there by young people that are going through these larger kind of mind virus institutions and are giving them all of their money. And now they have an example of, oh, don't worry, the government will just pay it off in the future. I could incentivize, I could borrow, I could make sure I take more money and give it to these horrible institutions connected to the intel agencies, especially in Boston at MIT and Harvard, where Jeffrey Epstein had his own personal office. We're going to incentivize that system, and that to me is incentivizing the worst system out there, causing the most damage and harm to the American people.
Absolutely. Let's make a trade. We can go ahead and remove all of those fines that people have, or all those student loans, or all their mortgages. Let's just cancel 1 year of the military amount of money we spend on military industrial complex. Let's make a trade. You want those things? I want less military. Let's go.
Well, I don't think that is ever going to happen.
I don't think so either. But one can dream.
All right. Well, good news, bad news. Good news for you, Dan, because I think we're going to get to sound money. Because the bad news is we are on the parabolic rise, blow off of debt and all of that, and currency creation right now. So I think we're in the final stage of the dollar regime. Obviously, the BRICS are doing everything they can to separate and decouple their, if they were tender ships lashed to the Titanic, they're cutting the ropes, right, and moving away, which is wise. The dollar is now in this blow-off stage, and we have nobody in power right now who even understands this dynamic, right?
Yeah.
We'll just have one of these and one of those, $2 trillion of debt, and we have debt as far as the eye can see, deficits. And I actually think we're going to get in huge fiscal and monetary trouble within the next couple of years at most.
there yet?
I'm saying within the next few months.
It could be.
Within the year.
It could. I mean, if China decides, okay, you've pushed this too far, and they openly say we're dumping these 800 billion treasury bonds tonight, we could get there a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But we are perilously close. I think most
Very
people
much so.
don't appreciate just how dangerous this is right now.
No, but people have no clue. They're seeing it, right? People realize there's something wrong with the money. That there are people working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Here in New Hampshire, I met in Missouri when I was lobbying. I called an Uber, and the person driving was a 78-year-old woman. I asked her, why are you doing Uber? How long have you been doing this? I just started doing this for a few weeks. It's a brand new car, and I make enough money driving to eat. Social Security doesn't pay for my food anymore. I can no longer survive. My husband died. I'm a widow. I had to come out of retirement because I can't survive. And she drives so she can eat.
Wow.
A 78-year-old woman. And 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck because of this fiat economic system. They are stealing and robbing us blind every single time they print $1 trillion every 100 days to just pay interest alone. And then they're doing deficit spending, and they're funding a war, a proxy war, billions and trillions of dollars every single year, stealing our wealth and making the rich richer, the poor poorer, and eliminating the middle class.
Yeah, plus the property taxes here in New Hampshire are just awful, and taxes in general going up as
Property
well.
taxes are pretty horrible just about everywhere, and I think that's one of those silent taxes that really affect people in that age category as well. So they're just going to be hit and targeted from every which way, and it's so unfortunate. I mean, we should be taking care of our elderly, not.
I actually think once you hit 75, no more property tax. You've paid your
100%.
way. You were here.
65.
65.
55.
55. Do I hear
Once you pay off your house,
45. Sold to the man to my left.
No, it's absolutely insane that people have to go through so many kind of economic pressures in their elder years, and it's only going to get worse if Joe Biden becomes the next president of the United States. Trump is promising a lot of changes, but he also did spend a lot of money himself. So let's just be also honest about that.
It's hard to
larger
defend
perspective
Trump
as well.
based on his record, but I mean, well, who else do we have that can actually change the system? It's like, where do we go from here?
Well, this is my main concern. So I think Trump on the campaign trail is amazing. But when he gets in office, that's where I'm like, I got my questions, because he was awesome on that 2016 campaign trail, right?
Yeah.
Hillary belongs
Lock her
in
up,
jail.
guys.
The Federal Reserve is blowing bubbles. And then when he gets in office, he's all like, hey, keep blowing those bubbles. I like them, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought he was a man of two worlds. And so I have a big asterisk on him. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he's an economist. I don't think he really understands how the economy works. I mean, look, I love Donald Trump right now, and I voted for him for each election, but he was responsible for the first stimulus package for COVID, and he put $1 trillion of inflation into the markets. I mean, January of 2020, we only had $20 trillion in debt, and today we're at 34.8 trillion. A lot of that was during his administration, the last year and a half of his administration. I mean, then Biden continued, but still, he started that inflation run, and people like to forget about that. But Trump was the one that did that. He doesn't understand economics, in my opinion.
He also doesn't understand that Operation Warp Speed, and he's still kind of bragging about it. So there's a lot of things that I take exception to Donald Trump with. I am by no means, in love with him. I have traded my vote for Trump for a free Ross Ulbricht. And that is a deal that I can make. I need I need political prisoners pardoned. And I am a strong believer in Ross Ulbricht being pardoned. But, I hold my nose to vote for him. This is in no means an endorsement of any kind. I mean, I think Biden is worse. And so I'm on that lesser of two evils, but the lesser of two evils is still evil.
But at least the conversations now are a lot better than I think they ever have been before. Trump's talking about getting rid of the income tax. He's talking about getting rid of taxes on tips. He's talking about implementing Bitcoin. These are conversations that if you tell someone a couple of years ago would be nationally had, would tell you that you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're insane.
Ending the Department of Education. I mean, that is huge for us libertarians.
Yeah, so I think Trump has my support, absolutely. Especially the free Ross thing was the kind of the cherry on the top. But 100%. The writing's on the wall. World War III or Donald Trump, as imperfect as he is.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Right, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not saying, I just, I need to be realistic. There's things that I can't quite get past, but it is what it is. It's where we are, unfortunately.
Yeah,
this is the reality we live in, right?
Yeah, the real world, not the utopia that libertarians love.
Well, there was one thing that Trump said that really caught me, which was, and if he did this, God bless him, he said he would release all the files on JFK, 9/11, and one other thing.
He said that last time.
I know he did.
Didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
He tried. He had a battle with the CIA, which is fascinating to watch and kind of highlights how powerful the CIA is, because he flip-flopped on it a couple times.
Those unelected bureaucrats who, they have no say over them.
Yeah.
So who released the UFO?
But Kash Patel promised me a position in Trump's administration where I get to declassify stuff. So I'm taking Kash
Records
on that
manager?
offer.
Is that for real? I mean, I would vote for him for that if that's a real offer.
Maybe he was just blowing smoke up my you-know-what, but I'll take it. With that fantasy of being able to release government documents. Absolutely, 100%. Kash Patel, the former head of Intel for Donald Trump, who, of course, will be having a very prominent position in his administration. He's amazing. He's absolutely on it. And,
are you the libertarian they promised us, Luke?
I don't even know if I'm a libertarian.
Are you the anarchist that they promised us? I think that's even better.
What are you?
But I think he's one of the few individuals that does give me a major white pill for Trump. Vivek being around him and a lot of other kind of America First people being around him really does highlight a larger kind of shift. And even though Trump might not change, I think the people around him are the ones that are going to be implementing a lot of very important policies. And shouts out to him. And shouts out to all you guys also for all of your super chats. As of course, soon we are going to be moving over towards a free speech platform where we get to discuss ideas without any fear of censorship. Before we do, I wanted to read some of the super chats that you guys have given us here before we end this broadcast on this platform and go over to another one. We have one by Andrew Jacobs that says, "Welcome back, Clint. If not back, get well soon." Yes, get well, Clint. I think he has what was it, the monkey pox? I don't know. He's not doing too well. So we love Clint. We're just joking. We love to give him a hard time, but he's the official co-host of the show, and he's a fun guy. And sadly he couldn't make it up here to Porkfest, but Martha is filling in. Martha, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Also another Miami person. There's a lot of cold people up here in New Hampshire that are really jealous of us Miami people, but I'll just leave it at that.
Miami's pretty awesome, I will say.
The Miami people are holding it down here, so thank you, Martha. And shouts out to Clint. He's awesome. He's a great guy. I really like him, even though we joust on the show. I think that's what makes the show fun. We have another one saying by Cain Abel saying, "So Clint did not show up because 1, had to go to the gym because he did not go the last couple of times. 2, he was hopped up on seed oils and did not want people to know about it. 3, unknown." It could be the seed oils, I'll be honest. So that could be it. Ian Medford says, "I think they want Trump to win because arsonists don't hang out in buildings, they spark up. They want the controlled demolition to happen on his watch." That's an interesting kind of notion here that could potentially be true, as of course a lot of people are expecting some severe economic problems after this election cycle, as the federal government is artificially keeping this government up and this economy up as best as they can, and a lot of people predict a major downfall. I don't know what you're seeing, Chris, but do you think that that's possible, that they could just bring Trump in and then collapse everything as soon as he's in there and then just cause utter chaos and disarray?
Whether it's intentional or not, I think that's going to happen anyway. Maybe we can get into this in the next part, but the Fed is now stuck in a really bad spot.
Yes.
Defend the bond market, defend the dollar, pick one, and they're going to have to let something go. So I think they're going to just torch it and let inflation run, because obviously the alternative is to shaft all their major clients and to lose their franchise. So I think the Fed's going to have to really burn it. And they've done everything humanly possible to keep it from burning up to this point in time, but it will burn anyway. And I don't know that it matters who's in office, but it will sure look suspicious if they hold it right up to a Trump presidency and then let it go.
Yeah, that would be not surprising with the way that things are going. We got another super chat here from Doc Holiday that says, Luke is a closeted grifter. No, I am an open grifter of many great things for you to purchase and to support. Another super chat here by Fret Pound saying, hey, it's Chris from Peak Prosperity. I'm a member. Amazing site he runs. Yeah, great site. I love your site as well.
Thank you, Fret Pound.
Finboy Slick says, here's $5 to you beautiful people and a little scoop that Luke and Clint have a cameo in my latest video. Yes, Finboy Slick, you make amazing videos and we are very excited to see all your latest kind of iterations, and feel free to send them anytime, and we of course will be playing them very proudly. All right, so before making the official kind of transition over to the free speech platform that we can't even mention here on this particular channel, we wanted you guys to tell us where can people find out more information about you guys. As it looks like we are on the picks selection for Rumble. You go, I said the name, I wasn't supposed to say it, but you go here to see all, and then you could see us here hanging out in this little campground that we are all hanging out here for this particular weekend. Before moving over, Chris, where can people find out more information about you?
Main place, peakprosperity.com. That's P-E-A-K, like a mountain peak. Peakprosperity.com. And, of course, I'm all over Twitter, my name, and on YouTube. And that would be the Peak Prosperity channel on YouTube. So that's where you find me.
Martha.
On X and IG as Bueno for Miami.
All right, Daniel. And then, Daniel, you're not going to be here for the next segment. Pat Holland is going to be filling in for you.
Yes.
So as you leave us, thank you so much for letting us hijack your studio and
Absolutely.
kind of take it from you, sort of consensually.
Yes.
Where can people find out more information about you and Citizens for Sound Money?
3 places. You can go to our website, citizens4soundmoney.org, citizens4soundmoney.org. 4 Sound Money on X, but that's a number 4 Sound Money, and number 4 Sound Money on YouTube.
Awesome. Great conversation. It gets a lot more freer. It gets a lot more wilder and totally uncensored, totally unfiltered on the next platform. Come out to the nature hike tomorrow. It's going to be really fun. And then we return, of course, tomorrow with Spike Cohan. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern at a very special time. It's always great to have Spike on. He has a lot of different stuff regarding his health and his personal well-being that I think we're definitely going to love to talk about here. So stay tuned.